Shout out G Herbo.
Now, you know what's so crazy is because I wanted to talk about that, and you said you don't do tea.
What's the T? I was just saying shout out to G Herbo. He's from Chicago. He's a rapper. She plays for the Chicago Sky, and he be courtside at the games.
And she be in his truck.
So how you feeling, Samaria?
I'm feeling good. We just got to see each other in person.
Oh my gosh, a real life human interaction. You are a real person. I can let y'all know one thing about Samaria that is very important. She sweats.
They've probably seen it on the show.
Probably not,
I try to wear black.
Okay, because you cover up the... Okay, I see what you be doing. Now it all makes sense. Enough about your sweat stains. Let's get into the fumble.
So day one of the NBA draft was widely regarded as underwhelming. The Atlanta Hawks taking Sha'Carri Reese out of France with the number 1 overall pick. The first time in NBA history 2 Frenchmen were selected number 1 in back-to-back drafts. Rodney, before we get into who our winners and losers were out of day one, how well do you feel like Reese is going to fit with the Atlanta Hawks?
Not great. If I can be completely honest. Listen, I feel like, he has some potential, but I feel like the Hawks and even the Wizards who took Sarr with the 2nd overall pick were both kind of bullied into the players that they selected. I think that there were players who were maybe a little bit more ready to contribute right away. The Hawks are in a really weird spot because they got to figure out what they want to do with Trae Young and DeJounte Murray, and trying to bring along a young guy who is unproven, who isn't ready to contribute right away just might prolong the process of figuring out what direction they want to go into, because right now, as you know, being from Atlanta, the Hawks are kind of aimless.
It's really funny that you just said bullied, because I think that's a perfect word for it. Obviously, the Atlanta Hawks came into this not even thinking they were going to get the number 1 overall pick. They tried multiple times to trade back. Apparently, their price was too high. I've heard reports that they wanted to get Reed Shepherd out of Kentucky. He would have been more of an explosive pick, I feel like. So I think bullied is the right word. This is a guy who's a safe pick. That is what he's been regarded as. Very safe. He can guard 1 through 4. He claims that he can do everything on the floor. But like you said, he hasn't proven himself. What we do know, though, is that he will come in being a pro. We know that over there in France, these guys are playing professional basketball at an early age. So he's been playing pro ball for a little bit. I mean, I'm trying to give him...
You being real optimistic. I don't like it. I'm going to be honest. I actually don't like your energy right now because you lying to yourself and the people out there. Because like I know, this smells like a even worse Rudy Gobert. And we all know how much I loathe Rudy Gobert. Sometimes in the NBA, like when it comes into the draft, there's like this group think mentality where everyone just locks in on 2 players, and front offices just refuse to take a real flyer on somebody who is a proven commodity. I feel like Stephon Castle, in all honesty, will be like the Jaylen Brown of this year's draft. I feel like even Reed Shepherd's value is inflated. I watched Kentucky quite a bit last year, and he can shoot the hell out of a basketball, but not to the point of being a number 3 overall pick. I do want to get into some of my winners and losers from the draft this year. So for the winners, I had the Minnesota Timberwolves, who stole Rob Dillingham from the Spurs. I thought the Spurs had a really good chance at surrounding Wemby with a high volume, elite shot maker off the bounce from 3 and Rob Dillingham. But they traded him to Minnesota, as well as drafting Terrence Shannon Jr. out of Illinois, who I thought was a really strong prospect coming into this year's draft. And then the Lakers, who took my favorite player from this year's draft in Dalton Connect. You like Dalton Connect?
I covered Dalton Connect. I'm in Tennessee.
Oh,
I was going to say that this is a guy that I thought they got, as a steal at 17. I do feel like maybe Rick Barnes did not appreciate his lack of defense. But this is a guy that single-handedly took the Vols to the Elite Eight this past season. I love Dalton Connect. He's a scorer. He's going to take over a game, and I think he will complement AD and LeBron. this
Yeah,
year.
and when you have AD on that back line, it kind of makes up for any deficiencies that you may have on defense. So he's in a really great spot for him. I think he'll have the same kind of impact as a Jaime Jaquez who went to the Miami Heat last year. He's an elite athlete too. He's not just a shooter. Like, this is somebody who can put you in the cup real quick. So shout out to him and the country of France as a whole. I don't know how many players were drafted from France last night. It felt like damn near half the country and half the draft. God bless. And the Wizards got losers of the draft. Losers of the draft. They drafted 3 French players, I believe. I don't know what the hell they were doing in a terrible draft. They decided to go all in, and I don't get what they be doing out there.
One of the question marks I wanted us to talk about was Zach Edey to the Grizzlies. I think it was like CBS Sports did their draft grades. He got a D. Now, Grizzlies fans are really excited about it. General Manager Zach Kleiman, I trust him. I really do trust his decision making. They needed a center. Is he going to be athletic enough with Ja?
I'm not an Edey fan, but I respect and appreciate what Edey does. He measured in at 7'3", 299 pounds, so he has some size, he has some girth. He is going to be a force on the post, but I just don't think that in the modern day era of basketball that he'll be able to contribute the way that he did in college. But he will be a pro, and I think he'll have a long career.
Thank you. So now you all can let us know what you thought. Who are the winners and losers of day 1 of the NBA draft?
Okay, so 4 years ago, Sha'Carri Richardson was primed to be the face of the U.S. women's track team, but a positive test for marijuana derailed her. But this go around, there was no tripping Sha'Carri up, not even untied shoes, and she is set to make her Olympic debut after winning the final heat in the 100-meter for Team USA. So, Samaria, how do you feel about Sha'Carri's chance at bringing home the gold?
I feel good. It's going to be tough, though. I'm excited to see her compete against the Jamaicans. She can do it. We're all rooting for her. I think that her story has just been amazing to see her win. Well, first of all, you just brought up her tripping. That was crazy for her to still win the way that she did after tripping at the start and then going on and winning the final heat, going up the stairs to her grandmother, the tears. It's all been so worth it. She's gone through so much in these last 4 years, from social media to maybe some mental health things that she was dealing with. But to be able to put all of that aside, Rodney, and compete and win and secure her spot in the Paris Olympics. I'm rooting for everybody black, but Sha'Carri.
To stumble out of the blocks the way that she did with untied shoelaces and to still win that heat, let me know that she came back 4 years later a better athlete. There's a level of mental composure that you have to not be flustered when you have that kind of start coming out of the blocks. Extremely proud of her. We know that she attributed her past positive test for marijuana due to poor mental health, right? Dealing with, I believe, the loss of her mother, if I'm not mistaken. I was elated to see her evolution as a runner, and happy for her joy, for her family's joy. And I think that she has a chance at medaling. Gold is tough, especially, when you talk about the Jamaicans. But she does have a chance to, I believe, medal for sure.
Oh, yeah. And I think that they had a stat where the last 3 world 100-meter scores, the top scores, she has 2 of them. She's running the fastest. So, and that includes a Jamaican.
Yeah. And there's, there's been these random white girls from random countries who've been running these fast times too. It's gonna be a hotly contested race. And again, I'm glad to see that she made it there. The track team, bro, they spend a majority of 4 years preparing for one moment, right? There's not the same level of competition year in and year out like NBA players have, WNBA players, hockey players, so on and so forth. These track athletes, they pour so much into this one chance at an Olympic medal. Oh, also, I want to add a shout out to Quincy Wilson, 16 years old from Potomac, Maryland. Still has a chance to make the Olympic team if he is selected for the relay pool. But 16 years old, does not have a driver's license, and is putting up grown man times out on the track. So hopefully, prayerfully for him, he'll make the relay squad, and we can see some Quincy Wilson over there in Paris.
Yeah. Oh, I love that for sure.
Absolutely. Let us know your thoughts. Do you feel like Sha'Carri has a chance at bringing home the gold for Team USA in the upcoming Olympics?
So let's switch gears to the WNBA. Angel, MF, and Reese solidifying her claim to that Rookie of the Year trophy. 25 points, 16 rebounds on a huge stage Sunday against Caitlin Clark in the Indiana Fever. She's putting up numbers that we have not seen from a rookie since A'ja Wilson back in 2018. Now, to me, she's done enough to have her name in the conversation, leading it really. But do you feel like these numbers will be enough, Rodney, to earn her that coveted award?
First of all, I don't feel like you really committed to the MFing Angel Reese. Like, I just feel like you could have had a little bit more. Like,
okay, so you do it.
Angel MFing Reese. You feel what I'm saying? Something like that. Anyway, yes, she is for sure a very worthy candidate for Rookie of the Year. And early on, when I saw people having this conversation, I admittedly scoffed at it a little bit, and I was wrong for that. She has been absolutely balling. She plays with a level of tenacity and force and hustle that you pray a player has, right? Like, she really goes after it on the offensive glass, especially, which I think is a true indicator of how hard somebody's playing. I would say right now, she might have leapt over Caitlin Clark for Rookie of the Year at this very moment. Still a lot of basketball left to play, but I got to take my hat off to Angel Reese, and I never take my hat off. So.
And let's go back to those numbers, like the double-double. She's like 4 away from a record that Candace Parker set her rookie season. It is just like amazing to see what Angel's doing on the floor, the way that she's impacting a game, the way that she's leading her team at such a young age. And this is coming off of a week where she probably had one of her toughest weeks mentally, because she had the game previously against Caitlin where she, I guess, like hit her in the head while she was trying to
flagrant
go
foul.
It was a
flagrant foul. Yeah.
And it felt like the entire world, or at least half of the entire world, was against her. Even to the point where, like, during press conferences, she's like, I don't really have anything to say. And people were, praying for her, outwardly showing support for Angel. And so I feel like she was feeding off of that in this game on Sunday. And I just could not imagine what these young girls are going through with social media and people, these stands, and but she's been
can we
okay.
Listen, this is what happens when you put the bullseye on your back a little bit, and she has embraced in many places being the villain.
Okay.
Even though she was vilified, she had a point decide to just be like, all right, that's what y'all want to make me out to be, then let's do it. Yeah. Which I respect and honor. I love somebody who goes full heel. I'm never mad at somebody just being like, okay, cool, I'm gonna be the bad guy. I think, though, we have to stop acting like some of the things that she gets. Now, there is a component of being a woman that men don't get, like the sexualization component. But, like, the vitriol that she's attacked with, I don't think is much different than what Draymond gets or Kyrie has gotten or a number of other players, right? Like, this is on par for what happens with superstars. And Angel Reese is a superstar. I'm just a little bit sick of hearing, and not from you, but just in general, that we have to be softer on her.
No.
Because I just...
Yeah, I don't think that we
that's
have to
a narrative.
be softer,
that's a narrative.
But I do feel like I can understand how tough this can be for somebody who's in their rookie season. I do love the fact that people have come and rallied around her, and she's been able to feel that love from her fan base, where she was getting a lot of hate before. That's all.
Yeah, for sure, no doubt.
Yeah.
And yeah, well, I'll leave it there because I don't want to seem insensitive.
No.
But I sometimes it'd be a little bit of babying going on. It's just like, yeah, bro, like that's what happens when you like that. Like when you like that, people have things to say in any profession. Mm-hmm. So she's worthy and capable of all the vitriol, because that means she's doing something. Yeah. And there were a lot of people out there who did not know how her game was going to translate from college to the pros, and she's showing the whole world, and that makes people even more upset at times.
Yeah, and one of those people was Cheryl Swoops, who came on and said, listen, we don't really know how her game or Caitlin Clark's game is going to translate. It may take them a little time to be able to fully adjust to the WNBA. And I saw that they shared that moment after Sunday's game. So that was really nice. They shared a hug after the game. And I mean, I feel like from Cheryl, it's all respect. This is one of the greatest women's basketball players.
And shout out to G Herbo. Shout out G Herbo.
Now, you know what's so crazy is because I wanted to talk about that, and you said you don't do tea.
What's the T? I was just saying shout out to G Herbo. He's from Chicago. He's a rapper. She plays for the Chicago Sky. I'm just bringing in the rapper that's from Chicago, and he be courtside at the games.
And she be in his truck.
You all let us know your thoughts out there, whether or not you feel like Angel Reese is a worthy candidate for Rookie of the Year in this year's WNBA season. So, Samaria, I'm going to do this Fumble of the Week, but I'm going to let you know in advance, this one is a little personal to me. Because the NBA is once again doing that thing where it prematurely evicts someone from the league before their time because they're not a part of the good old boys club. Forced retirement has happened to players like Carmelo Anthony, Allen Iverson, Dwight Howard, and now it's happening to a really good friend of mine by the name of John Wall. And the true tragedy in that is that there are very few people who are better than John Wall and who care more than John Wall has. I met John when he was still in high school. I was in college. One of his best friends is my little cousin. And years later, when he gets drafted by the Washington Wizards and I'm working for the organization, I'm sitting back and I'm marveling at the way this dude has grown as a man. He was handed the keys to a franchise at a very young age, and he operated that vehicle with a supreme level of grace and maturity that many have not. He cares so much about his teammates, the organization, but it was his care for the city of Washington, D.C., the people of Washington, D.C., that I feel truly embodies his time as a Washington Wizard. He was a man of the people, and he showed up for the community the same way that we hope our politicians do. John Wall is a phenomenal person, and he was raised by a phenomenal person, Miss Frances, God rest her soul. She was one of the coolest people you could ever meet. See, John's biggest mistake was that he cared too much, honestly. He cared to not let down his teammates and the organization, and so he played through so many injuries that his body began to fail him. And by the time he allowed himself to heal, for the first time in his life, he prioritized himself, and he said, you know what, I'm going to take this season off. I'm going to get all these injuries right. By the time he was healed and ready to come back, the NBA had moved on from him, and it was so vicious. The Houston Rockets sat him home, told this man that he could not come to the games. But of course, John, being who John is, showed up to the practice facilities and took the young players under his wing, because that's just the kind of person that John is. I was incredibly proud of him a couple of years ago when he acknowledged some of the struggles he was having from a mental health standpoint, the dark places that he fought to get out of. It pains me to see him opining for an opportunity at this stage in his career, because he is still very young with things to offer. And there is an organization in Washington, D.C. who he gave everything to. Everything to. They are in dire need of leadership and some skill, to be completely honest, both things that John Wall is known to have. And so the NBA and the Washington Wizards especially are getting my Fumble of the Week this week for treating one of the all-time best people in the NBA so harshly. That is my Fumble of the Week. How do you feel about the treatment of John Wall so far, Samaria?
No, I absolutely agree, because he was on, whose podcast was he just on recently? It just slipped my mind.
He was on Udonis Haslem and Matt. Yeah.
Okay, and so funny enough, UD, he wanted to have a similar role that he had in Miami, where he can come on a team and be that leader, be that mentor, a teacher. And he's crying out. He's like, listen, this is what I really need. Not even want. I think he really needs this right now in his life, to be a part of a franchise where he can come in and feel like he's making an impact on a team. And so it is really difficult to see, because he, not too long ago, was one of the faces of the NBA. And so to see him kind of wither away the way that he has, and to know like some of the stuff that happened behind the scenes, is really sad, to be honest.
It is, man. And, you know, John, I'll say it any and every word that I can. John is one of the best people that you can meet, right? In addition to that, there are times in which I've seen people be critical of John Wall because maybe he doesn't speak the way that they think people should speak, right? Like maybe he doesn't carry himself like he's from Mayberry or somewhere from, middle of nowhere. Like he is somebody from the struggle, and he embodies that. And far too often we see in the NBA, which is becoming a nepotism league, right? We're seeing too many people being afraid of people like John Wall, like Allen Iverson, like Carmelo Anthony, who maybe embody the culture in a specific kind of way. And those are the first people that the league is deciding to remove. Sorry, I had to get that off my chest. That's my dog.
Okay.
Y'all let us know your thoughts about my fumble of the week, whether or not my guy John Wall still has a place in the league. And if so, which team can you see him being on?
All right, that's all for this week. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of The Fumble. Make sure to subscribe to The Fumble and at The Fumble Sports on all of our social media platforms. Of course, we deliver the latest in sports every day on our YouTube page with Jackie Ray, and then every Friday right here at The Fumble with myself, Samaria Terry, and my co-host, Rodney Rakai.
Yeah, make sure y'all lock in. And if y'all have questions for Samari about her hair care regimen, y'all feel free to ask that in the comment section too, because it is shiny and beautiful and bouncing. We out of here. Peace.